haven't committed no crime. We never have committed none.
I'm innocent of everything that was done.
Approach, relieving the constant pressure and putting the pressure on a random basis.
Mr. Jones was actually using a fraudulent Florida driver's license and an identity of another person.
Actually testifying with all the physical evidence and things that we had. He really put the icing on the cake.
In 73, I robbed a store.
Number 5, Charles Victor Thompson. Charles Victor Thompson is an inmate sentenced to his end in April 1999 and currently resides on Texas End Row. He was sentenced for the slaying of his girlfriend, Denise Hayslip, and her other boyfriend, Darren Kane, on 30 April 1998.
A trial on the punishment phase again. He actually had some street clothes.
Have changed his clothing if he felt he was going to be trapped in his cell.
Thompson made headlines in 2005 by escaping from Harris County Jail in Houston, Texas, after a resentencing hearing where he was sentenced to his demise for a second time, using a forged ID badge, claiming to be with the Attorney General's office. He was captured 4 days later outside a liquor store in Louisiana, where he was using a payphone while intoxicated. He was able to get food and clothing, he told investigators, posing as a Hurricane Katrina evacuee. Number 4, Martin E. Gurule. Martin Edward Gurule was an American prisoner who successfully escaped from the Row in Texas in 1998. It was the first successful breakout from the Texan End Row since Raymond Hamilton was broken out by Bonnie and Clyde on January 16, 1934. In July 1993, Gurule was convicted of capital slaying and sentenced to his demise for fatally shooting Mike Piperis and Anthony Staton. During a Thanksgiving dinner on November 26, 1998, Gurule and 6 other End Row inmates hid in a recreation room. Prior to leaving their cells for the dinner, they had placed cushions and sheets in their bed in such a way that the guards would not suspect anything was amiss. They also darkened their prison uniforms with marker pens so that they would be less visible at night. After the cells were locked for the night, they broke through a door to the recreational yard and then through a separating fence.
About 5 years now as Director of Public Information.
Shortly after midnight, guards at a post spotted the escapees climbing, immediately raising the alarm and opening fire. At this point, all 6 of Gurule's co-escapees surrendered, but Gurule ran and scaled a second barbed wire fence and disappeared into the darkness outside the prison boundary, despite the guards having fired 18 shots at him. More than 500 officers from surrounding towns, cities, and counties took part in the manhunt, which was supported by sniffer dogs, boats, and helicopters.
This is designed to confuse him. He won't know when the dogs are coming through. He won't know if they're going to be there as an opportunity to move, perhaps to move toward the perimeter, toward the roadway, toward the houses. And when it's the minute this happened, the criminal investigation networks all across this state, from our investigation.
Governor George W. Bush additionally called in the Texas Rangers and announced a $5,000 reward for information leading to Gurule's capture. 7 days later, 2 fishermen found Gurule's body in a river. The autopsy revealed that he had sustained a gunshot wound in the back, causing him to drown in the river. Number 3, James Robert Jones. In the nearly 40 years after he escaped from the maximum security military prison at Fort Leavenworth, convicted assassin James Robert Jones carved out a new life for himself in Florida, living under an assumed name, getting married, and working for an air conditioning company. It all came to an end this week when Jones, or Bruce Walter Keith as a former Army private was known in Florida, was recaptured with the help of technology that was more sci-fi than reality when he broke out during the disco era facial recognition software. Jones, 59 years old, was one of the Army's 15 most wanted fugitives after his 1977 escape from the Kansas prison dubbed the Castle for its large walls and tower keeps. He was convicted in the 1974 slaying of a fellow soldier at Fort Dix in New Jersey. According to the archives of the Times of Trenton, Jones, who is originally from Ontario, California, was found guilty in the knifing demise of Lonnie Eaton, 18, and the wounding of another man. Police at the time said Eaton and a friend were walking back to the base from a bar when they were attacked by 3 men with knives after one approached and asked if they had any marijuana to sell.
Freedom that led to his recapture when marshals matched a Florida driver's license to his prison photo.
The facial recognition database developed a positive match that Mr.
Walter Keith, we know the man known as Jones, had a house and a steady job. He told investigators he planned to...
Jones was serving a 23-year sentence when he escaped. The marshals caught up with Jones after using facial recognition technology to match a Florida driver's license he was issued in 1981 in Keith's name with his old military photograph. Jones was arrested outside the Pompano Beach business where he worked. He admitted his real identity as he was being fingerprinted, and the prints confirmed it. He was being held without bail at the Broward County Jail awaiting transfer back to Fort Leavenworth. Number 2, Frederick Barrett. A Florida assassin who escaped from prison more than 3 decades ago was recaptured in Montrose County, Colorado. Frederick Barrett escaped from Union Correctional Institution in Rayford, Florida on August 17, 1979 by climbing 3 perimeter fences at night during a power outage. He was serving a life sentence for the February 8, 1971 slaying of Carl Ardolino on the Florida Turnpike. Ardolino had picked up Barrett and another man who was hitchhiking, said Ron Lindback, a deputy U.S. Marshal in Florida. Ardolino was choked and beaten until he was unconscious and then held underwater in a ditch until he perished. After his escape, Barrett managed to elude authorities for 32 years, but time caught up with him when Barrett, who was living under the name Neil Meltzer, was arrested by U.S. Marshals dressed as U.S. Forest Service firefighters at a remote Colorado cabin. Barrett was arrested outside a makeshift but tidy cabin near Montrose, about 200 miles southwest of Denver, when the officers said they wanted to discuss fire danger, the U.S. Marshal Service said. When they saw a tattoo on his hand that matched one that Barrett was known to have, they told him he was under arrest. Barrett is not only facing escape charges in Florida, but he'll also face charges in Colorado as well, after U.S. Marshals found a marijuana grow house and a number of firearms in his home, the Marshal Service said. Charges will include possession of firearms by a convicted felon and operating a grow house for the cultivation of marijuana. Barrett is being held at the Montrose County Jail in Montrose, Colorado. Number 1, the Mecklenburg escape. It took them less than 2 hours to bust out of the brand new lockup, which was considered escape-proof. The $20 million Mecklenburg Correctional Center near Boynton opened in 1976, complete with the latest in jailhouse high-tech. Nevertheless, on May 31, 1984, with little more than a stretcher, a blanket, and a portable TV, they pulled off the largest escape of Death Row inmates in U.S. history. Brother James and Linwood Briley were the ringleaders. 4 others, Lem Tuggle, Earl Clanton, Derek Peterson, and Willie Lloyd Turner, would join in the dash for freedom. A 7th, Dennis Stockton, who landed on the row in a 1978 contract slaying, helped but didn't join them. The plan started with careful, months-long scrutiny of the guards, their shifts and habits, and even their clothing sizes. On the afternoon of May 31, the 6 inmates got haircuts and close shaves to make them appear like a bunch of college grads on their first job interviews to blend in on the outside. They made their move around 8 p.m., overpowering the guards and opening all the cells in one block. Outfitted with uniforms and riot gear that they found in a storeroom, the men put the portable TV on a stretcher and covered it with a blanket.
Final murders take place at this home behind me in the 2300 block of Barton Avenue. The Briley brothers walk up to longtime...
Whatever he said, that's actually what went, you know. Driving about 15, 20 minutes later, chased them, they got away, and the next day, because always they've been framed or they don't have the evidence, you didn't prove it.
Pretending to be guards, they radioed an emergency call and said that they needed a van to remove a bomb from the row. For an extra touch of drama, they used fire extinguishers to douse the bomb as they scurried from the building and into the waiting getaway police van. It took half an hour for prison officials to realize that they had been tricked and that 6 extremely dangerous men were at large. The news spread sheer terror through the community. People were afraid to go out of their houses. All 6 were cold-blooded assassins, but the Brileys were in a class by themselves. They seemed to slaughter for fun. The eldest, Linwood, started his slaying career in 1971 at 16, with the shooting of a recently widowed neighbor as she hung laundry in her backyard. In 1979, Linwood, his brothers James and Anthony, and a teenage accomplice, Duncan Eric Meekins, went on a slaying spree that snuffed out at least 11 lives, and some believe there may have been as many as 20 victims. The crimes were particularly brutal and senseless. They shot a beloved country and western DJ, Johnny Gallagher, and dumped his body in a river, stealing $6 and a distinctive turquoise ring. It was on Linwood's finger when he was brought in for questioning in connection with another crime. A detective who happened to be a friend of Gallagher's recognized it, connecting Gallagher's demise to the brothers.
I didn't commit any murders. I was not out robbing this animal that the press had made me out to be.
I've never known too many murderers whose favorite implement was a baseball bat. If you had 25 cents in your pocket and they wanted it, they'd cut your throat to take it.
They were just vicious. Weapons like butcher knives, meat forks, scissors, and all this stuff.
One victim was stabbed with knives, scissors, and a fork, and then the body was set on fire. In their last attack on October 19, 1979, they physically exploited a pregnant woman and then fatally shot her, her husband, and their 5-year-old son. All that just to steal a television. Police already had their eyes on the assassin quartet and arrested the brothers and their teen accomplice after these slayings. Meekins told all and testified against the Brileys at their trial. The younger brother, Anthony, was sent to prison for life. James and Linwood were sentenced to their demise. They were trouble from the moment they set foot in the jail up to the last day of May 1984 when they busted out. Police nabbed Clanton and Peterson a day after the break. A few days later, Tuggle tried to rob a jewelry store, which led to his recapture as well as Turner's. They had made it as far as Vermont. It took nearly 3 weeks for the law, hundreds of officers and FBI agents, to catch up with the Brileys. They were in Philadelphia, barbecuing chicken when police closed in. Both brothers, as well as the other escapees, kept their dates with the electric chair. That's all for today's video. See you next time.